Hey guys, it's Maymay, and this card is one I made recently in a live show using our newest stamp set. And several of you asked if I would make this showing you how to do it on the Cricut because you didn't have the same style of dies that I had to use here. So if you're seeing this card for the first time, I'm going to link the video where I made it with a die set in the description for you. And now I'm going to show you how to get the same results. Can you see the word joy there? The same results using your Cricut. So to get started, you're going to open Cricut Design Space, and we're going to go to the top right and choose New Project. Now we're going to be choosing a blank canvas because we're going to be designing this from scratch. So click the option that says Blank Canvas. This will open up a blank spot for us to work, and you see these images are open. I'm going to just click that and shut that down because we don't really need that. Okay, the first thing we need to do is open Shapes. You see that in the left-hand menu bar. So we'll click the word that says Shapes. And when it opens, I'm going to choose this square right here. This square has sharp corners. The other ones you see have rounded corners, and that's not what we're looking for today. So I'm going to choose the one with the sharp corners. Now, we need to resize this guy. Now, if you look at the top, you can see that it is 2 by 2. I want to make this 7 by 4. So in order to do that, I need to click on the little lock between our two numbers and unlock that. If I leave it locked, whatever I do to one side gets changed proportionally to the other, and I want to be specific with my size. So I've unlocked the lock, and now I'll head up to the top and I'll change the width to 7 inches, which is pretty wide, but I'm making a 5 by 7 card, so I'll change the width to 7 and then the height to 4. That's what we're going to need here. Now once we've done that, I like to change the color of these images to where I can see them better than the black. So I'm going to change this one to gray so you can see it. Even though I'm going to cut it out in cream, I want you to be able to see it easily on the screen. So I'm just going to choose gray here. Now this area is where we're going to be putting our word joy and doing all our stamping. So we need to start building that now. But the first thing I want to do is I want to move this image up into the corner. There are rulers along the left-hand side and the right-hand side, and I like to place this in the corner of those rulers so that I can see kind of where I'm placing things. There are other ways to do this, but for this project it's so simple, this is really going to work. All right, it's text time, so let's click on text. This brings up a box that we can then type our word joy in. Now I type this in all capital letters because that's kind of what I want on the front of my card. And we can change this font to fit what we want, so it doesn't have to be just what we're looking at. Now I am selecting the word joy. Right now you can tell it is not selected because the box around it went away. But I want you to check this out. I want you to see when I click this word, this box comes around it, and in the right hand side layer panel you see that it turns green. That lets me know that I've selected it. So now when I go to font, we're working on that box to change that font. Now when you're looking for fonts, you can be here all day. There are so many of them. But the thing I want to do today is I want to look for a bold font that has a good size circle or opening in the O. If the O has a small opening, you won't be able to stamp baby Jesus in there for making this particular card. See how thin those circles are in some of them? So I'm going to run through and find the font that I want, and then we'll make the card. So this is the font that I chose. It's kind of a bold font, and I like how it looks on the card. So now we can start to place it where we want it. So with my dies, I happen to know that they were 2 inches tall. So I want to kind of mimic that here. I want these to be 2 inches tall as well. So that means I can go up here and locking those proportions back, or making sure they are locked, I can change the height of my font to 2 inches, and when I do, because I have the lock locked, the width will change automatically to what we need it to be. So I put in 2. Actually, I didn't. I hit the wrong number. There's 2. I put in 2, and now you'll see that my width is where I need it. I don't need to adjust that at all because this is going to fit just fine on my card. Now, if you do this and your font is too big and hanging off the card, you might need to edit. But for me, this is going to work perfectly. Now that we have joy on the card, we need to place it in the right spot. You'll see here too, the center of this O is going to be perfect for our stamping because our image of baby Jesus is going to fit right in that middle so good. And I happen to know, because I've made this card already, that I want joy to be about 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom of the card. So the way I'm going to do that is use these rulers to my advantage. I'm going to go into shapes and I'm going to choose line. Now I'm just using this as reference, so don't worry too much about this one, but I'm just using it to kind of help me line up the word joy. So I'm going to turn this guy sideways, and using those rulers on the side of the left hand side, I'm going to put that line even with 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom of our card. That will show me where I need to slide the word joy up to, and then I don't have to keep the line. So now that I've got it at 3/4, I can click the word joy and slide it up to the bottom. And now we can delete that line. Now I can click here all I want and it's never going to get that line for me. Instead, I'm going to go to the layers panel and I'm going to click on the word line in my layers panel to select it so I don't have to fight it. Selecting line in the layers panel will choose that line for me, so I can just hit delete on my keyboard and now it's gone. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to center the word joy on this panel. I know it's the right height that I want. I don't have to change that because we've already done that. But I want to center it so that it cuts correctly in the middle. So what I do to do that is I need to select both of these guys. And I'm going to take my cursor out to the right hand side of this image and I'm going to click and drag, selecting both of them. Now I can go up to align and I can choose the center horizontally option. Now I don't have to do it vertically. You could if you wanted to. You could go here and use any of these options, but I only want to center it horizontally. So if you center it vertically, it's going to move it, so don't do that. Now with both of these images selected, and you can see that they are because the layers panel, they're both green, we need to make another edit. If we were to say make right now, because it looks like we're done, we wouldn't be. Right now the Cricut thinks this is still 2 images. We need to tell it to take that word joy and hold it where it is to cut it. So down in the bottom of your layers panel, you'll see the word attach. This has a little paperclip symbol. We're going to paperclip the word joy right where it is. And what I love about this new design space is when you hover over this, you get an explanation of what you're looking at. So that is perfect. So we're going to click the paperclip, and now you see that our word joy becomes a cut word, and it's one image. It's going to be held right there, and we can move it around, and Cricut knows we want to cut in that spot. So now let's click make. Now you might want to save this here. I already have this project saved, so I'm not going to save this one, but you certainly could at this point. All right, we've got it on the mat. Now I'm going to be cutting a piece that's a little bit larger than what we need, something about 4.5 by 7.5, because I want this to cut out the rectangle for me as well. Normally I would cut out the rectangle and not have the Cricut do it, but I need this to live right where it is in that rectangle, so we are going to do that. So I'm going to load the mat and cut it out, and then we'll get back together to put this card together. Something else I want to show you here, I'm using my Cricut Joy Extra, and I've got some favorite cardstocks here. I'm going to use heavy cardstock, and so I need to tell the Cricut that I'm going to. So I'm going to click here where it says heavy cardstock, and then where it says pressure, I always like to make it more. So I do the drop down and choose more so that I don't have to worry about having to come back and do a second cut. I know this is going to have enough pressure for what I need. So now I'm going to load it into the machine. Once I do that, it'll tell me to click go, and we are ready to cut this guy out. While we're waiting for this guy to get ready, I want to tell you about something I'm doing called Cricut Boot Camp. This is a 3-day event where I'm going to be teaching you the basics of Cricut. If you are a beginner or even a seasoned pro, I think you will enjoy it. I'll tell you more about that at the end of the video. All right, I'll click go, and then I'll meet you back, and we will put this card together. So now we have the project cut on our mat, and we're going to remove it. Now, when you remove this kind of project, it's really a good idea to take your Cricut mat and curl it a little bit, like kind of bend it back. And when you do that, instead of pulling the project off the mat straight, if you do this, you see how easy this will lift off, and we don't get any of that curling or creasing of the letters and things like that, especially because we need these to stay pretty flat because we want to stamp them in a minute. So consider doing that. Be careful with your mats, and then you can put that away. We're done with that. Now, I decide to put this one onto a stamp positioner. I'm going to use my Stamp Wheel 2.0 here because it's large, and I'm going to put the whole thing back together. You'll see here I'm going to put it down at the bottom corner. I do move this so you can see it better because it was a little too low. But I put the little background in, and then we're going to put our letters in. Now, the J and the Y were easy for me to do, and they probably will be for you too. But that O, it does have a right and a wrong way to go into the piece. And my cardstock is textured, so I have to kind of pay attention to the texture and the shape of the circle to get it back in. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be pretty close, because when we stamp on it, it's going to blend in anyway, and you can see it's pretty close there. And then the center can go back in. Same thing, looking for texture to lay that down. Now here we're just going to stamp this like it's a solid piece. We're not going to worry about those letters at all until we get to where we stamp the baby Jesus, because we want him in the middle. So right now we're just going to stamp. Now you're going to see me do a couple things here. I'm going to use the positioner, but I'm also going to use blocks. This is the stamp set we're using. It's called Glorious Impossible. I love this one, and it's made so that you stamp lighter starting with the background images and then darker as you go forward, and you'll see how that kind of works here, how it makes the scene kind of pop. So we're going to start with the city scene, and I'm placing it center over that O, and I'm bringing it down so that my star can fit right above it. That's what I'm paying attention to. I want to put the star there at the end. So then we're just going to pick this guy up, and I'm going to ink it with my lightest ink. And for this one, I'm using Sand Dune from VersaFine Clair. So I'll ink him up and stamp him. Now the cardstock I'm using, I told you, was textured, and I like the way that looks. It kind of leaves a distressed look for the image. So I'm placing this down. I'm going to use my impressible to press it down, but I'm still going to get texture when I lift this up, and I'm going to go with that. But if you didn't like that, because we're using a positioner, you could stamp it multiple times if you needed to. Now I'm taking the Wise Men, and we're going to change our ink here. Now what you want to pay attention to with these scenes is the ground. And I'm going to be moving the ground here an eighth of an inch further down than my city. This is how we start to build that forward motion of the image. So I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to ink it with Morning Mist. That's my second color, which is kind of a gray. And again, this one's going to have some texture. Oh, I want to show you this. Do you see that little dark spot on the stamp? That was where some kind of lint or something had built up on my stamp, and had I not cleaned it off, I would have ended up with a kind of a dark spot on my project. So that's what you saw me doing there, cleaning that little bit off and then re-inking so we get a nice smooth image. Okay, so stamping this down, and this is where you see this. The dark color pushes that light color to the back, and it starts to build our scene. I think it's so cool. Still a little distress from the texture of the cardstock, no big deal, I love that. And then I kind of cheat from the rest of the way. I already had these stamps loaded up on blocks from when I did this card the first time. So rather than take them all off and reload them onto the positioner, I'm just going to stamp them just like this using the blocks. Now, I showed you there I was lining up the ground. When I change the color here, I want that scene to feel like it's in the same part of the light. So we're using the same Morning Mist at the same level there. Also, you kind of need to do the palm trees there because it helps to give the Y a little more pattern so it pops when we pop it off the page. Now, I forgot to extend out my building, which I actually did the first time I did this too, but I can stamp right over the palm trees and it just kind of pushes to the background because the color's lighter. Okay, now for the fun part. We're going to stamp Baby Jesus, and this time I'm going to use black. The rest of the images I'm using here will be done in the black. I want to center him in that circle. That's where I want him to land. And by doing that, we just continue moving our scene to the front. Now, when you do this, this is a bold image stamp, and I have stamped it a bunch of times, but I'm going to take my time transferring this to the page. See how much time I'm spending here? That ink needs to kind of soak in, so don't just press it and lift straight up. Give it a minute to transfer. All right, and then we're going to finish our scene with kind of the livestock and a little bit of the grass, all moving forward a little bit more. You'll see here how Baby Jesus' ground is one way, and then I bring this livestock set a little lower, and this is going to bring the image toward us. All right, a little bit of grass. I think this grass really lands everything. They're little like weeds or grass or something like that, and I just kind of put it everywhere the little animals are, and I think it really dresses it up. Now the star. I decided to do the star in the dark color. I don't know why. I just felt like it made it kind of a focal point back there, and I like that. So there's my dark star over it, and it's all completed. We can take it off of our platform and go to put it onto our card base. Now I cut a piece to go behind the letters. This gives me something to mount the letters on top of. So this piece is just going to hide behind. It doesn't have to be the exact same size. And I just ran glue around the openings for joy. And then whenever we push this back together, you'll see that I'll have a place to stick the letters to when we put some foam squares on those. I overglued and I got it on the mat a little bit, so I'm just wiping it off on the back. Okay, so let's talk about the letters. I want to pop them up. This is what makes them really show on the project. Now, when I did this in the live show, somebody mentioned that it might be cool to ink the letters before you put them back, ink the edges, and that would look good, but it does change kind of the effect, because the effect of this card is kind of a subtle effect to see the word. So that's why I'm just doing the foam squares and not inking the edges, but you do what you're comfortable with. On this card in particular, I did a 1 layer of foam tape. On the one I showed you in the beginning, it had 2 layers of foam tape. And I'm doing this on purpose because I want you to see the difference. The more you pop them up, the more obvious they are, especially on camera. I promise you, in real life, you can see this so much easier than what it looks like on camera. But I wanted you to see the difference in 2 layers. So let me put these guys down, and then we'll do the center of the O. You just line this up just like a puzzle piece. You just make sure everything matches, and it just goes right back together. For the center piece, we're not going to pop it up. We actually want to glue this down flat to give that O the dimension it needs in the middle. So I apply glue inside the circle and then place this image in. And all you do is you line it up just like it's a puzzle. There will be a separation between the two, but that's what we're looking for. This is one of my favorite cards. I love this so much. You can do this with so many different images, though. Are you already thinking about things in your stamp sets where you could cut out the background and then do this little lifted image in the middle? Okay, now let me show you the difference in the two. That was the 1 layer. This is 2 layers. You can clearly see the difference on camera here, how much more separation we get. There you even can see the foam squares really well, and you can hardly see them in that first one. So I think 2 layers is really good, but I did want you to see the difference. So here you can see the one I did on white. I think it's really pretty the way it pops up like that. And then all you have to do is assemble your card. The card I made is a 5x7. So I took my matted piece and I added another mat so it would have a stripe to lift it off the page and put it on to a card base. Now don't forget, I am offering right now a 3-day event called Cricut Bootcamp, and you can get in on that. All you have to do is look in the description below. There will be a link for you to get all the information about it. If you want to learn more about Cricut and be very confident with your machine and use it in ways maybe you haven't done before, consider signing up. Go ahead and check below for the information. All right, you guys, share with me what you're making over on our customer gallery at maymaymadeit.com or at our Facebook group called Maymay Made It, and so did I. Thanks for being here today, and until next time, bye now.